Hello, welcome back. I'm going to continue reading from one of my favorite books. It's called Bickie's Thunder Egg by Bert Rhoads. And I'm going to read chapter 2, since I have a bit of time. Chapter 2 is titled The Buried Stone. The growing corn on the Ross's south 20 acres was already knee-high when John walked through it. Bickie and Tommy could crawl through the green rows and be almost hidden from sight. There was no potato patch this year. No seed potatoes, John told the younger boys when he heard them talking about it. Lucky enough to get seed corn. We'll have to have that for the mortgage, you know. It was middle of July, and the corn was laid by. John had begun to clear away the charred planks where the old house had burnt. He had piled all that could be used for firewood on the back of the granary. He cleared the rubble and ashes from the cellar, and at last there was nothing left but the sandstone walls of the cellar and the foundations. This made a fine playhouse for the boys. The cellar door still hung from its iron hinges, and Bickie spent pleasant hours with Tommy playing pirate, gold miner, and treasure dig. Sometimes the open cellar became the lair of lions and tigers and fierce wild elephants who burst forth into the countryside to do great damage along the willow hedge and elderberry bushes, and then scamper back to their den. It was a warm Monday. Near the end of July, the boys were playing in the cellar. It was a little cooler there. They took up the charred boards from the floor and set them against the wall to make a lion's den. "Let's play dig treasure," Tommy suggested. "Where shall we dig?" asked Bixley. "Oh, let's dig right here." Tommy kicked at a wider spot in the cellar floor. The boys dug for a few minutes, but they couldn't dig into the spot that Tommy had pointed out. It was rather too hard. They clawed up the dirt all the way around it. "Go to the barn and get that old axe handle behind the door," Bickie urged Tommy. "This must be a rock. We're going to need something to pry it with." He looked down at the hole they had made. Tommy ran for the axe handle and came back breathless. "Now you pry against it with the axe handle while I push from the other side. Maybe we can get it out." Both boys knelt beside the hole and examined the thing they were trying to dig out. It looked like a huge gray egg, about 14 inches long, and certainly a couple feet around at its fattest part. "What do you think it is?" Bickie tapped it with the axe handle. "It's a stone, that's for sure." Tommy pried and pushed and tugged with the help of the ash axe handle. "I know it's a stone, but have you ever seen a stone like that before?" "No, but there's lots of stones I've never saw. And I suppose there are millions of stones you never saw, too." Tommy was tired. He sat down in the midst of the dirt they had thrown out and looked at Bickie. "It's not a very pretty stone." Bickie kicked at the rock, still partly embedded in the dirt. "I can't see why it's so hard to dig up either. It's quite smooth. At least all of it that we can see. You don't suppose it has roots or something?" "No." Tommy began clawing away more dirt from the stone. It hasn't got roots, but it's awfully heavy. That's what." Bickie looked straight at the sky above them. The sun shone down, and the air smelled of clover and dandelions and ragweed. "Well, I hope we can get it out," he said. Pardon me. "We'll scrub it off and take it into our bedroom. We can have fun with it. Such a weird-looking stone." "I wonder how it came to be buried in the cellar floor." Tommy was using the handle to pry again. He heaved and pressed against the gray stone. "Maybe it was there when God made the earth, and maybe it came here when the flood came and drowned everything and scattered the rocks about." "Well, yes, it certainly looks like it's always been here." Bickie took up the axe handle with his stronger arm at the lever. The stone loosened a little and rolled to one side of the hole they had dug around it. "Look, it's loose!" Bickie shouted. "Help me lift it, Tommy." The two boys rolled it free of the hole and then sat down to examine their prize. It actually wasn't very pretty at all, and it didn't even look that smooth anymore. It was rough and gray and egg-shaped. If I didn't know it was a stone, I'd think it was some big bird's egg," Bickie said. "You know, Mother told us about frogs and fish that got caught in the flood. They got buried in the ground until they finally turned into stone. Plants did, too. She said they were fossils." "I don't think there were ever any birds big enough to lay an egg like this." Tommy brushed the dirt from the stone from the stone with his shirt sleeve. I don't think this is a fossil either. It's just a heavy old stone. After lunch, the boys went to play in the maple grove, and neither of them remembered the gray stone until almost sundown. Maybe we ought to take our stone in the house, Tommy reminded Bickley. They ran to the open cellar and looked down at it again. It's so heavy we'll have to carry it in a basket. Why don't we leave it here? Tommy sighed, spitting on the floor near the stone. Because Hank Smith is always prowling around here, looking for everything. If he sees this funny stone, he'll take it. Then Mother's supper call came clear through the evening stillness. They hurried to the house, washed up at the bench by the kitchen door, and sat down at the table with big bowls of cornmeal mush steamed. Big bowls of cornmeal mush steamed. Mother had set two bowls at each boy's plate. One was full of yellow mush, the other one was full of rich cold milk. Mother always fixed it this way in hot weather. They would take a spoonful of mush and dunk it in the milk to cool it. It was an unbelievably short time, in an unbelievably short time, both the mush and the milk bowls were empty. Mother, we found a stone, Bickley told her. Mother was tall and pretty, with black hair and rosy cheeks. She was almost always laughing or smiling. Bickley and Tommy knew that she was the prettiest mother in that part of Iowa. We found a stone that looks like a big egg, Tommy said. Well, that's fine, Mother said, smiling at the boys. If it's heavy enough, you'd better bring it to the house and use it to prop your bedroom door open. Then you won't have to use a chair to keep it open. Oh, it's big enough. It's heavy, Bickley told her. It's not pretty, though, Tommy hesitated. Maybe you don't want something like it in the house. I saw a stone over at Big Red's house. They used it to hold their doors open, and they whitewashed it. Mother began to clear the supper things from the table. Oh, that's a good idea. When John comes home, we'll ask him to whitewash our stone, and it will look nice from the bedroom, Bickley said. It will look more like an egg then, won't it, Tommy? Their big brother John was in Marshalltown, where he'd taken a piece of machinery to be repaired. Surely he'd be back tomorrow. Marshalltown was only 12 miles away, and it was a large town. Bickley had been there a few times, and both boys had spent hours talking about the wonders of Marshalltown. After Bickley and Tommy finished their supper, they went to bring in the big stone. They carried it in an empty cod basket, and when they laid it in the door of the lean-to bedroom, Mother came to look at it. It is a strange-looking stone, isn't it? She said. She turned it this way and brushed her hand over its coarse surface. It certainly looks like an egg. I am sure I've never seen anything like it before. The boys hurried to fetch the cobs and the wood for the stove, and the water for the pail that stood by the bench. And then it was dark, and they sat on the floor in the middle of Mom's new braided rug, with the stone between them. When will John be home? Bickley asked Mother. Not till afternoon, I think. She sat by the kitchen table close to the oil lamp and sorted garments into the mending basket in the chair in front of her. I wish we could go Marshalltown, Tommy spoke to Bickley. Do you remember that blind man who made the music? Of course I remember, Bickley said. Bickley could not forget that. Well, a long time ago. It must have been a year already. Do you remember the boy who didn't have any arms and could write so well with his toes? The boys talked on and on about the great wonderful things they had seen in Marshalltown. Bickley studied a piece of paper with a Bible verse written beautifully by the boy with no arms. If I was in... that's interesting. Four-place store in Marshalltown, I would get some cookies and some candy and some jelly. No, you wouldn't, Tommy said wistfully, looking at Mother. You wouldn't buy a thing. You haven't got any money. Well, someday I'll be big like John, and they'll earn money. And then I'll go into the store and I'll buy everything I want, Bickley declared. Four Plows store, I think that's how you pronounce it, was filled with wonderful things. Rare coats and suits of fine materials, lamps, lanterns, saddles, and food. There were barrels of crackers and round cakes of cheese and cookies and candy, too, and bags of rice and flour. Under the counters of the grocery department, there were big wooden pails of jam and jelly. There was cornmeal, too, and a great deal of cornmeal, and it wasn't expensive. Even in the state center, a mile away, there was plenty of cornmeal. Often the boys ate their cornmeal mush. They'd talk of the brown sugar and jelly they'd seen in the store a year ago. Now that they thought of John coming home tomorrow, they couldn't help but wonder if he might bring a pail of jelly. He did sometimes. Jelly was very cheap. That night, as Bickley laid in his bed, he remembered they hadn't told Mother that where they had found the queer stone, and she hadn't asked. He decided it didn't matter. It was just an old stone that must have been in the cellar a long time. Mother couldn't be very excited about any of the things they dug up. They had been doing it all summer. Early in the spring, stories spread around the neighborhood of a man who, digging his cellar deeper, found that he discovered a chest of gold. Although Mother told them the story was probably not true, the boys began a series of frantic digs all over the yard, and every night they reported what they had found. They dug up some horseshoes, an old axe head, and a curry comb. All these treasures were set in a neat row beside their bed and latrine room. Tomorrow, after whitewashing, the egg-shaped stone would take its place among them, the largest and most important of their discoveries. It was a dreaming stone, Bickley thought to himself. Dreaming things always are good to have, because they make a boy forget ragged clothes and cornmeal mush and many other matters. That's the end of chapter 2. Hope you enjoyed.